Hi, I'm Eoin Gilhooly. I lead Intelligent Platform Services, or IPS, in Ireland for Accenture. This is a series that explores the transformational potential for businesses using strategic platforms across their organisation. At Accenture, we bring value to our customers by delivering joint solutions with our platform partners. Over the past 20 years, Salesforce has been one of our key strategic partners. In this discussion, we'll be looking at our areas of joint focus, including the increased demand for digital customer experience, how companies need to be more transparent in their sustainability strategies, and how data is changing the way businesses and customers are solving problems. Here to discuss all of this and more are Deirdre Purcell, Head of Ireland Sales at Salesforce, and Sean McCarthy, the Salesforce Business Group Lead for Accenture in Ireland. You're both very welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks very much, Eoin.
Great to be here.
So let's get started. So Deirdre, how does Salesforce bring the end-to-end capability needed for customers to transform?
So Salesforce is a global leader for CRM, bringing companies and customers together in this digital era. Salesforce enables companies of every size and across every industry to avail of powerful technologies, cloud, mobile, social, AI, voice, and to connect their customers in a whole new way. Companies, CEOs, business leaders, they trust Salesforce to help them transform their companies around the customer in this digital-first world that we're now in. What we call this is our Customer 360. This is our vision. It's our Customer 360 platform, which enables these companies to sell, service, market, do commerce, analyze, collaborate, do everything in one place. So it's an integrated platform powered by AI, which is that single source of truth and putting your data at the heart of everything you do.
And that AI gives a lot of insight into their customers then, how they use the platform.
Absolutely. So it drives, we have technologies in there, we have Einstein, we also have Tableau that we might touch on later, that drive those real-time insights for employees and for your entire company to look at that customer data and understand what that customer needs now. So what's that next best action in order to either service or sell to that customer?
And enhance their experience then using Salesforce.
Absolutely. So our customers expect us to know them now. They expect us to know their preferences, how they like to be communicated with, what marketing platforms they want to be contacted on. And this is just, it's the world we're living in now, and it's how our customers want us to interact with them.
That's great, that's great. And Sean, how does Accenture's capabilities complement Salesforce in this situation?
Well, in Accenture, we like to position ourselves as being at the intersection of business and IT. That's where we really add a lot of value. And we've operated in Ireland for over 50 years at this stage, so we know Irish business, we know the industry that operate in this country. We understand the pressures of trying to compete locally and globally as these firms scale, and the amount of change that we've seen over the decades that we've worked together really gives us the insight to understand the problems that they see day to day, okay? In addition, we also understand the technology challenges that they're facing. There's probably a sliding scale where we'd probably best describe it as multi-speed IT in the country. And that's a combination of legacy platforms with, on-premise solutions for silos within organizations, with, server rooms in the corners of offices with blinking LEDs and wires hanging out of them. And on the other side of that scale is people starting to dip their toe in the world of cloud. And hosting parts of their organization or parts of their solutions online. And it's really a range between the two on the spectrum.
Or a hybrid between the two.
A hybrid between the two, yeah. So it's trying to understand the challenges that Irish businesses face whenever they're running multiple speeds across that spectrum, what that means in terms of how difficult it is to upgrade systems, maintain systems, roll out change, really show innovation across a complicated architecture. And by understanding the business and IT challenges, we think we're very well positioned to say, well, look, we understand that regardless of what your IT architecture is today, you still want to be able to rapidly deploy change. You want to make decisions quickly and turn them into IT reality very quickly. But you also want to see innovation. You want to see innovation from your partners. You want to see innovation within your own business. And you want to be able to push that out in a robust, secure fashion. So understanding the challenges and understanding the abilities of Salesforce ecosystem, we're well positioned to add value here.
And how did the Salesforce capabilities help our customers to differentiate in their industries?
Well, I think there's two parts of that answer, right? First of all, the ecosystem, as Deirdre mentioned, is incredibly powerful. The fact that in one place you can acquire, retain, cross-sell, upsell, service, manage, engage with, inform, and know your customers really well in one place, that's really powerful as an ecosystem. But the fact that it's also a cloud-first company that is focused on innovation, I think that's the real driver here, because COVID has pushed us, the world online and digital transformation has become much more to the fore in the last couple of years. But this has been part of Salesforce's DNA since day one, right? They were kind of early pioneers of software as a service, the early pioneers of putting the entire platform onto a cloud. So they've been doing this very well for decades, literally decades at this stage, right? So it's a very robust, scalable, secure solution, which helps our clients focus on what's important to them, their core competencies. They don't have to worry about IT architecture as much anymore. They don't need to worry about upgrades and the innovation that Salesforce throws into this. 3 times every year, Salesforce push out the latest set of features and capabilities. It's a very rich platform, and delivered through the cloud, it's very, very powerful.
And obviously, pre and post-pandemic, we're living through a time of enormous technology change.
Yes.
Deirdre.
Yes.
How does Salesforce help companies to transform into digital organizations?
So, and yes, we certainly have come out of, I suppose, what we hope has been a once-in-a-generation challenge over the last 18 months. And companies are now being forced into, if they didn't already have a digital strategy, they're being forced to have one. It's absolutely imperative that
the customers are demanding it, really.
They're absolutely demanding it. And our world has changed, and it's not going to go back. So I think the companies that will emerge strongest out of this are those that embrace that change, and they don't just snap back into the way things were. And as I mentioned, every company has to be able to sell, service, market, conduct commerce everywhere now, globally. We're in this digital work from anywhere world. And in order to do that, they have to be able to give their employees that technology platform that will enable them to do that. And I think what we're seeing is companies looking at how they used to work and then really trying to rethink and reimagine.
This is like working from home, or it's like working from my attic.
Absolutely. So now, HQs are now in the cloud. And that's the way we need to think. It's taking that opportunity to really think about how you can do work differently. And it's also about enabling your employees to do their best work. So how can they do that from anywhere? There's no such thing anymore as e-commerce, it's just commerce. Or remote working, we're just working.
Yep.
And that's that new world that we're in. So those companies that do that and really embrace it will thrive and move forward, I feel, at a much faster pace than other organizations.
Oh, that's great. And Sean, do you have a good example of Accenture and Salesforce working together to help a company transform digitally?
Yeah, so let me give you a bit of an example in this. One of the utilities providers who operates across UK and Ireland a number of years ago reached out with a problem, right? They wanted to launch a digital-first brand, an energy providing brand. And they selected Accenture and Salesforce as their partners in this. And this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So we've worked with this for a number of years. And the challenge that they really had was they wanted a scalable solution. They wanted something that was 100% digital. They didn't want paper trails all over the organization. But interestingly, they also wanted to target a very specific sector of the market, one which was customers which don't typically change providers on a regular basis. So it's a very attractive segment of the market to go after, but it's a very difficult one to acquire. Okay, and actually the strategy they employed to try and get these customers was to have feet on the street, to have a mobile sales team knocking doors and trying to make sales. And historically, this has been very paper-based. This is people with clipboards going door to door, right? So they wanted to scrap all of that as the business model. And what ultimately we came up with jointly as a solution was actually using 4 parts of the Salesforce ecosystem: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Experience, and Community Cloud. And the reason we used all 4 of those was Sales Cloud's very good at using the kind of quote engines and the calculation engines. The Service Cloud was used to integrate back into the energy systems, so you get a 360 view of the customer. The Marketing Cloud was used to push marketing content, to push verification of new customers through email and SMS. And then the Experience Cloud was the portal, because the teams that were selling this were were either based in a call center and they had a telesales team, or they were knocking doors and there was a mobile field sales team. So we were able to pull together two separate portals to do two separate things, which all integrated the data into one place. And ultimately, we delivered a very scalable solution. Hundreds of new agents were able to ramp up very quickly. A very flexible solution, one that's robust and had the innovation from Salesforce, multiple times a year.
That was Accenture and Salesforce working together on this.
Absolutely, hand in glove all the way from start to finish. Yeah, very much.
Great. And another area of focus that I know everybody globally should be thinking about, but we as a company are working together, is sustainability. You talk about losing the paper trails, and obviously that's a part of sustainability, but not the be all and end all. Can you explain our partnership with Salesforce around sustainability?
Absolutely. So sustainability is something that Irish businesses are grappling with, as are businesses across the world, right? And there's four main, I suppose, pressure points coming to them, four angles that they're feeling pressure. Investors, customers, employees, and policymakers. They all have their own ideas about what ESG looks like and sustainability looks like. Investors are rotating heavily into ESG funds and it's sustainable investing. Customers are demanding more information so they can make choices at the point of sale. Employees want to work somewhere that is seen to be doing good, that actively isn't damaging the world and is improving the communities they live in and increasingly aligning to their own social values. And then policymakers, because of all the global commitments we're hearing about climate change and climate change targets, policymakers are starting to focus on this, and we're expecting over the next couple of years that will be an increased focus in regulation across many industries.
And Deirdre, what does Sustainability Cloud bring for our customers who are being driven by their customers to be more transparent in their ESG reporting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to Sean's point, the focus on climate change and climate action is at an all-time high. It's not something now that is a nice to have. A bit like that digital transformation conversation. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. Employees are demanding it, stakeholders, customers. And
not just greenwashing, real traceability, I guess, on their ESG report.
Real traceability, exactly. And I think companies have found this really difficult. It's been a talking point, but it's something that they've been challenged with because that data is everywhere across your organization. So now I think what needs to happen is you need to have the leadership that's going to drive it. You need to have the data, and that's the difficult part, where to find that data and how to surface it. And to be able to have the platform to analyse, report on and visualise that data. So what Sustainability Cloud has done, and interestingly where that came from, is Salesforce. For over 10 years, we've been trying to manage and report on those metrics ourselves and track our carbon footprint. And we developed Sustainability Cloud internally first to do that. Yeah. And just at Dreamforce this year, we have announced Sustainability Cloud 2.0, which brings it to the next level and will enable companies to embed. So what I think Accenture does and where that partnership comes together is you will work with your organizations and your clients on their strategy across the organization, embed that strategy across the company, and then bring in Sustainability Cloud to lift all of that data up to be able to track it, analyse it and report on it. And Sustainability Cloud 2.0 will enable companies to report on everything down to scope 3, which can be really difficult in terms of emissions down to... Scope 3 is where you have emissions tracked down to employees for things typically like products and cost and employee travel. And what you'll be able to do is track that at that kind of level and be able to get advice and guidance on climate action plannings, improvements around the business. And ultimately, though, what it's really doing is allowing you to track and report on it.
Yeah, and keep yourself accountable for those improvements.
Absolutely. And I think more and more, as we've seen some great statistics coming out, 58% of people are happy to spend more with companies that are sustainable. That are sustainable and that are really pushing their climate action agenda.
Very good, very good. And that's really interesting. And Sean, how are Accenture helping to build further innovations into Sustainability Cloud for our customers?
Yeah, so Sustainability Cloud is a very powerful tool, and for 2.0 to be coming out already means it shows how much effort Salesforce is putting into this and constantly innovating. What we're finding is that the tool works very well to give an organisation at organisational level or at building level or at regional level the amount of breakdown they need on carbon reporting, for example. And we're starting to work with Salesforce on, well, what else could it do? You know, could it go down to the level of product level reporting? So if we take an example, right, Eoin, you and me could walk into a shop today and buy a Mars bar.
I love Mars bars. To be clear.
Oh, we could turn it over and we would look at the nutritional information on the back, which has to be printed, all of the fat and sugars, now all the good things that go into chocolate. We would see that in the back. Now, it's not a great stretch of the imagination to say, well, in the next couple of years, these companies could also have to put the carbon impact on the back of these products as well. So customers want to be informed so they can make decisions at the point of sale. Accenture Research has recently said that 2/3 of customers in the next year will use sustainability as one of their deciding factors when buying products. In the next year. So that shows that the time is now to make these type of decisions. So what we're trying to do is working with Salesforce on the platform, figure out, well, what are the additional complicated mathematics and algorithms that we have to put in place to say, well, if we understand carbon reporting at building level, and that building is making ingredients, or that building is involved in shipping or distribution, how do we bring that down to product level? How do we understand the product level impact and the decisions that customers
to give that real traceability? Then,
real end-to-end traceability, yeah.
And I think it's a real challenge, and I think it's okay for companies and for us to be having that discussion around it being a challenge.
Yeah.
Like being able to track all of your emissions across an entire supply chain is a complex thing to do. But I think what's really important is for companies to understand that once they embed it across every department, every function, make every person and employee accountable and be aware, that's the first step on the journey. It's not anymore a team of people or a department that sits on the edge of your organization. It absolutely has to be embedded across. And I think that is that first step that every company needs to take. And it's for all companies. Small companies, large companies, it's not for just some.
Well, if they're not doing it now, they're going to get driven to do it by the competition in the market doing it as well. So that's
they absolutely are. And there is an element of first leader advantage. Because back to the point about companies have a bit of a fear about it. They think it's something that's going to be really expensive to embed in their organization. You know, as we know, customers are happy to spend more with companies that are sustainable. So the sooner companies get on that journey, the better.
That's great. And you talked about the data involved in sustainability there. But even then, I always hear about the value of data for organizations. How does Salesforce help with utilizing that value in an organization?
So I suppose, first of all, our Customer 360 platform is where it all starts, and you have all of your data in one place, all of that rich customer data to be able to analyse and report on and visualise. We then acquired Tableau, which adds that extra layer, and Tableau, it simply allows people to see and understand data. It democratises data in that it brings it to the user. Data, I think, as we would have imagined a number of years ago, is something that sits in a back office. You need to wait for IT to run reports. It's siloed, it's in different systems, but it's rich in that it allows companies, once you surface that data, it allows you to make really informed decisions about where your business is going. So if we think about data now being in the hands of the users, it allows, again, back to the employee, it allows that employee to have that data at their fingertips.
These data-driven decisions we hear about all the time. Data-driven
decisions. And when we think about the transformation journeys that companies are on, every digital transformation right now is a data transformation. It's driven by data. So the more data you have at your fingertips that you're able to analyse and drive those decisions, the more powerful in terms of making the right decisions that are more strategic for your company.
Brilliant, brilliant. And how do we help with customers with using Tableau in the right way, Sean?
Yeah, there's probably three ways that we help. I suppose to Deirdre's point, data is key, right? Data is going to be the success or failure of these type of projects. Okay, so the very first thing we have to get right is a proper data strategy. It can't be siloed. It can't be for individual functions. It has to be organization-wide. And by understanding that well enough in advance, by understanding that the current landscape might have, not have source of truth correctly defined. It might have data duplicated across the organizations, used by different teams for different things and interpreted different ways. I know we've all seen examples of people taking copies of data into their desktop and using Excel files to
spreadsheets all over the place
to tear it apart and do whatever they want with it, right? And that carries a lot of risk, and actually you start to lose some of the advantages that Deirdre's talking about. Really understanding your customer and the trends and all that stuff. So defining a proper data strategy up front is really important, and us. This is something we're very experienced with, and we can really help customers get the most amount of value out of what is there currently, but also what additional data sources they can augment into that, so that by the time the data all gets into Tableau can do some really powerful things. It's a wonderful reporting engine. It's a very, very clever analytics platform. They can do some very, very clever things with Einstein Analytics, Prediction Builder, advising customers what the next best action they should take based on certain data sets. It's a very powerful tool. And then the third thing that we help with is the leadership that gets these insights. What do they do next? Right? There's no point in having a real-time analytics platform if you're going to take a monthly snapshot of it and put it in the back of a status pack. Yeah. Right? You actually have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to act, and those business decisions need to be translatable back into either technology change or organizational change.
Having that process in place.
Have the process in place, absolutely, to be able to churn these things out very quickly.
And I think that's a great point, because Tableau at the end of the day is a platform.
Yeah.
So you need that robust data, which needs to be clean. It needs that data strategy behind it. And you need the people with the skill set and the interest to actually be able to analyze that data and continue to it. So it's not a point in time, to continue to analyze it to enable those informed decisions. Yeah. I think absolutely, great point.
Great. And you mentioned earlier about the working from home or as I call it, teach my kids Irish while trying to work.
Stop.
But as we now are more used to the working from home, collaboration has never been more important. And I know Salesforce have a lot of new developments in this area to facilitate collaboration in the working environment.
Absolutely, and it's been so interesting, because we've all been on our own, locked in our attics or our rooms or with our children or whatever those stories have been over the last 18 months. However, it's never been more important to be able to collaborate with your teams, with your wider organization, with your customers, with your partners. And so Salesforce, Salesforce was born for this world to some extent. As Sean mentioned, we were born cloud. Our technology platform was ready for this era. However, we also had challenges in that everyone had to go home overnight and work remotely. Yes, we were able to just open our laptops and work as normal the next day. But things like events, for example, we had to pivot completely to being in person like we are today, to being remote. And then we made the Slack acquisition. And as much as we have great collaboration tools, we have Quip, we're all online together, we collaborate in context. You bring the power of the Salesforce platform and Slack that millions of people use every day to work more effectively, more efficiently, in a more streamlined manner. You bring the two of those together and it makes that collaboration really powerful. It is really like adding a connective tissue to the entire end-to-end process of interacting with your customers, your colleagues, your partners. And it really enables employees, for us anyway, from our experience, to absolutely do your best work, because you're doing everything in context. You're bringing in applications, you're bringing in documents. And what we've actually heard from some of our customers is that key decision making has increased by 30 to 40% for one of our customers, because of the collaboration they had within their channel between Salesforce as their vendor and them as a customer. So there's huge benefits to it. And it absolutely brings this to a whole other level of what your digital HQ is, enabling people to work from anywhere, at any time, formal or informal.
Hopefully not any time.
Well, you've people now globally, so the 9 to 5 is gone. Yeah. And to have all of that in one place with workflows and in context is a really powerful way to work.
No, it's great insight. And the Slack is part of the wider Salesforce ecosystem. So, how do Accenture work across all of that ecosystem, Sean?
I think the best thing that we have going for us is that we have been doing this for over 15 years. I think the Accenture Salesforce partnership has gone on at this stage. And we have over 1,000 implementations of successfully delivering every part of Salesforce, across that full ecosystem. So we're very experienced globally. We work in all of the industries that use Salesforce, and we've implemented some very difficult versions, some very complex versions of Salesforce across the full ecosystem. So I think the first thing is we really understand the nuts and the bolts of this. Okay. The second thing is we don't just work with Salesforce, we work with some of Salesforce's partners as well. So I'll give an example is Encino. So Encino is the global leader in digital lending, and that's a platform which is built entirely on top of Salesforce. It uses all of the sophistication of the Salesforce platform and architecture, the robustness, the scalability, the security, the innovation that Salesforce brings to it is all baked in. And we have a very strong relationship with Encino as well. And in one of the big Irish banks, we've been working with them for the last number of years in delivering a very powerful solution. The third thing as well then is Accenture builds on top of the platform as well. So we have built dozens of solutions, industry specific for real niche use cases, so that whenever we go to the market, we don't always start with a blank piece of paper. And I'll give you a few examples in that. From the insurance space, we've built an intelligent claims operation platform that sits on top of Salesforce. In the public sector space, we've built a child welfare benefits system, so that if we go out and we get asked these specific questions by prospective clients, again, it's not a blank piece of paper. We're not all starting from scratch. We have very powerful systems with real credentials really being used in the real world somewhere globally that we can leverage very well.
Obviously, we talked about a lot of different elements of Salesforce's capabilities over the last while. Are new customers surprised by all of these different elements, or which elements would you think they're most surprised by? Because, as you said, it's CRM is the home of Salesforce, but you've evolved into a lot of different areas.
I think, to Sean's point, actually, it's the breadth of the platform. So it's how far it can go within your organization. It really is enterprise-wide now. It's not just sales, as we would have started out over 20 years ago as a sales cloud. All of the additional clouds that we have now brought to become that customer 360, or Slack first customer 360, as we're calling it now. And beyond, right? So it's not just having that integrated platform, it's being able to extend it out to other applications, to our App Exchange, which has thousands of applications that can be bolted on, as Sean was mentioning, as additional applications for different parts of your business, and how easy that is to do.
Depending on what you need.
Yeah, whether it be, project management or HR solutions, they're there and they're built either by Salesforce or by our partners. They sit on that App Exchange and can be brought in as and when you need it into the platform, like Lego bricks. So you're building up this agile platform that, again, is seamless across the business and has all of that data in one place. I think that's always maybe a surprise, or maybe something that's an unknown to customers. I think as that expands even further, having that open platform where you can bring in, like we were mentioning with Tableau, you can bring in sources of data from everywhere else. And that's when it becomes really powerful. And your IT department, or maybe your business users, can start building applications themselves. So it's not just take them from the App Exchange. You can build applications.
On the Salesforce
on the Salesforce platform, low or no code, build an application. It might be something that only takes a few days to do. Could be for, a quick approval process or expense management, for example. Let your business empower them. Let your business users do it. Because it's low or no code, they can be very simple applications to build. And I think that's probably what our customers find.
And quick to add value in your business then, because it's quick turnaround speed for those new applications.
Absolutely, and then you can extend them out to whoever needs them within the business.
Wow, that's great. New customers can't but not be impressed by what they've heard today. Sean, how do we help new customers adopt the Salesforce solutions?
So, whenever Accenture and Salesforce engage a new customer, I think the most important thing for us is pace, right? We don't want to sit down and everyone get comfortable in a set of meeting rooms and spend 6 months talking, right? That doesn't do it anymore, right?
Yeah.
So what we're very keen to do is very
hands-on.
very quickly get hands-on, right? So spend a bit of time with the business understanding what are their pain points and what does value mean to them? What kind of value are they trying to add? And very quickly start into, well, okay, let's do a capability mapping. Let's look at the full ecosystem. Let's look at all of the component parts of each of the different tools and say, well, do any of these feel like part of the solution? Okay. And the capability mapping will extend to, well, what can we configure? Very simply, what is a more advanced configuration or what is customization? And then at that point we say, well, okay, let's move into proof of concept mode or proof of value. Let's define something meaningful. There's no point in doing something fast and useless.
Yep.
Okay, let's find something meaningful.
Let's that fast and useless.
Yeah, let's limit ourselves, right? Let's put the blinkers on to some extent and find a really significant problem or process or a team that needs to be upgraded or something like this. And let's all focus very deeply on this one thing. And then using Agile, between Accenture and Salesforce, we try and iterate very quickly. We try and give demos back to the customer so they see the progress. And at a point in time, we say, okay, there's our proof of concept. Does this feel like it's adding value to you? And the idea being that at that stage, this is production ready. This isn't an idea or a concept. This is actually something we could really push today if we wanted to.
It's much easier to get something there in front of people to then see
Absolutely.
how to scale it from then on.
If it's really tangible, it really works. And at that stage, what I've seen is customers get very excited.
Yeah.
Okay, how do we scale this? That looks great. Let's do it for 5 more processes or 3 more teams or 2 more geographies or whatever it is. That's when the excitement kicks into this. And I think what Accenture adds to this is we're not just the advisory. We're not just the strategy guys at the start. You know, we actually go end to end. We deliver this. We implement this fully for clients, and we can manage it for them once the thing's live as well if needed. So we can really provide an end-to-end service.
Great, great.
And I think where both of our companies work really well together is during that whole process. I think that's exactly right. You take one use case, you prove it out, you really understand what that customer is looking for in terms of business outcomes and value. And we can help and engage with, we call them Sparks or Ignite programs, where it's exactly that. You take a small team of people in a room, a use case, that business problem, and you actually build that out in the platform with real data and give them, we might call it a mini proof of concept, you know, but you're actually showing them this is how we can solve this problem. Here are the efficiencies that we can make. And we will work with Accenture to build out in the background, maybe part of that strategy as we're going through that process in terms of how they can work differently or do things differently. But what is that ROI and that outcome at the end? And
that's the benefit to customers of our partnership that we're always talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's very powerful. And finally, we always look to the future. At the end of any discussion, we're always looking to the future, Deirdre. So we've talked about a lot of the innovations that Salesforce have made over the last couple of years. And to be honest, I find it hard to keep up with so much change in Salesforce. But how do you see it moving over the next 5 years as the platform evolves?
I think it's difficult to look out just 5 years. We absolutely look out to the future in terms of where we have come from. We will absolutely continue to innovate. Yeah. It's where we have come from. It's what we're going to continue to do. The demand for digital transformation and that acceleration of companies' digital strategy is really driving us forward in terms of our success. But nothing has changed in that our success comes from our customer success. So if that is accelerating and continue to demand, if that demand continues, that's great. But we will continue to invest in R&D. We will keep coming out with our innovations, and we will develop and grow those real trusted relationships with our customers into the future. And hopefully we will be sitting here in another 5 years having an even better conversation. Yeah, very good. And Sean, we'll keep supporting Salesforce over those next 5 years.
Absolutely. It's an exciting platform to be involved in, yeah.
Yeah, great. Listen, that's been a great conversation, and thank you for being here today to share your insights. And thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this IPS series.